My teen daughter demanded a $5,000 shopping spree, saying, "You have the money, so it's not a big deal." When I refused, she scoffed, "Then I'll just use your card while you're asleep." The next day, she tried, only to find out I had canceled every single one. Furious, she screamed, "You're the worst mother ever." I smiled, "And you're officially on a budget." Parenting a teenager is like navigating a minefield, and recently, I stepped on a big one. My daughter, Olivia, is 16. She's always had a taste for the finer things, but what happened recently took things to a whole new level. It all started on a typical Friday evening. I was in the kitchen, prepping dinner, when Olivia sauntered in, phone in hand, eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something," she began, her tone sugary sweet. "Sure, honey. What's on your mind?" I replied, wiping my hands on a towel. "So, there's this new fashion line that just dropped, and everyone's talking about it." I was thinking, I need a new wardrobe update. Maybe around $5,000 should cover it. I nearly dropped the pot I was holding. $5,000? Olivia, that's a lot of money for clothes. She rolled her eyes, clearly exasperated. "But you have the money, so it's not a big deal." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. It's not about whether I have the money. It's about understanding value and not being wasteful. She huffed, crossing her arms. "Fine. If you won't help me, I'll just use your card while you're asleep." That was the last straw. That night, after Olivia went to bed, I canceled every single one of my credit cards and ordered new ones. I wasn't about to let her take advantage of me like that. The next morning, Olivia stormed into the kitchen, fury written all over her face. "You're the worst mother ever," she screamed. I looked at her calmly and said, "And you're officially on a budget." From that day on, I implemented strict financial boundaries. Olivia would receive a monthly allowance, and if she wanted anything beyond that, she'd have to earn it. It wasn't easy, and there were plenty of arguments, but slowly, she began to understand the value of money. One weekend, she wanted to go to the mall with her friends. She asked for extra money, but I reminded her of her allowance. Frustrated, she decided to sell some of her old clothes online to make up the difference. To her surprise, she made more than she expected. This small success sparked an entrepreneurial spirit in her. Over the next few months, Olivia started a small online business, reselling vintage clothing and accessories. She researched trends, learned about marketing, and even started saving some of her profits. It was a complete transformation. One evening, as we were sitting in the living room, she turned to me and said, "Mom, I'm sorry for how I acted before. I understand now why you said no. Thank you for teaching me this lesson." I smiled, proud of the young woman she was becoming. "I'm always here to guide you, Olivia. I'm glad you understand." This journey wasn't just about money, it was about responsibility, respect, and understanding the value of hard work. Sometimes, tough love is the most genuine form of love a parent can give. Things were calm for a few weeks after that whole card-canceling situation. Olivia stuck to her allowance, worked on her little resale business, and even helped out more around the house. I thought maybe we'd turned a corner. Then came the phone call. It was from her school. Vice principal. He said Olivia had been caught skipping class 3 times in 1 week. I didn't even know what to say at first. I just sat there holding the phone like it had burned me. That night, when she got home, I asked her about it. "I'm just tired of the same boring lectures," she shrugged. I needed a break. "A break?" I asked, trying not to raise my voice. "You disappear from school in the middle of the day and you call that a break?" She rolled her eyes. "Why does it matter? You're just going to make a big deal out of everything." "You're damn right I will," I snapped. "Because skipping school isn't some small thing. It's reckless." She stormed off, slamming her bedroom door so hard it shook the frame. A few minutes later, I heard her crying. Loud, frustrated sobs. I stood outside her door for a second, hand raised to knock, then dropped it. I didn't know what would even help anymore. The next day, I checked her room while she was at school. Not a snoop, okay, maybe a little, but because I had this sick feeling in my gut. I found a designer purse stuffed under her bed. Tags still on it. And a receipt. $1,300. She hadn't used my new cards. I knew because they were locked up. She had a debit card tied to her allowance account, but that thing never had more than a couple hundred on it. I checked her drawer and found a second wallet I'd never seen before. Inside was another debit card from an online bank. When she got home that day, I waited until dinner and asked about it. "Where did you get the purse?" She froze. "What purse?" "The $1,300 purse under your bed." She looked away. "I bought it. It's not a big deal." "Not a big deal?" I laughed, but it didn't sound funny. "With what money?" She didn't say anything. Her silence said it all. I found out later, by checking the card, that she'd been taking returns from her online resale store and rerouting the refunds to a second account. She'd charge customers, then cancel the shipment, pocketing the refund. A few even complained, and she ignored them. It wasn't just a dumb teenage move. It was fraud. I told her she was grounded. No electronics. No shopping. No friends over. I told her we'd be returning the purse, closing both her accounts, and she'd write apologies to the customers she scammed. That's when she exploded. "You're ruining my life. I hate living here. I hate you." She threw her phone, smashed it against the kitchen tile. I didn't flinch. I just stood there and let her scream. Later that night, she snuck out. I didn't hear her leave. I only knew when I woke up at 3 a.m. and her bed was empty. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I texted. Nothing. I barely slept. Around 6 a.m., I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Olivia. She was crying. Said she was at some kid's house, someone I didn't even know she was friends with. She sounded shaken. I told her I'd be there in 15 minutes. When I picked her up, her makeup was smeared, her clothes rumpled, and she smelled like smoke. She didn't say much. Just looked out the window the whole ride home. After we got home, I asked her again what happened. She told me they were drinking. She got dizzy and scared. One of the boys tried something. She pushed him off. She called me from the bathroom. I don't think I've ever felt so angry and helpless at the same time. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I just held her. She cried into my shirt until she fell asleep. That day changed something. In me. In her. She didn't fight me on the grounding anymore. She helped me send back the purse. We closed her accounts. She apologized to the people she scammed. But I knew we weren't done. Not by a long shot. She started therapy the next week. I started going too. And that's where we are now. Things are still rough. She's quiet. Withdrawn sometimes. But there's a flicker of that old fire in her. It's just been warped by too much pressure, too much access, and way too little consequence for way too long. We're trying. Both of us. But part of me still waits for the next fire to put out. A few weeks into therapy, Olivia was quieter, more careful with her words. She didn't throw fits like before, but she also didn't seem like herself. She kept to her room a lot, and every time I asked how things were going in therapy, she gave the same flat answer, "Fine." I didn't push it. One night, after a long day, I was half asleep on the couch when I got an email notification on my phone. It was from PayPal, an account I hadn't used in years. It said a new phone number had just been linked. I almost ignored it, thinking it was some spam, but I clicked in anyway. It was Olivia's number. I sat up, heart pounding. I logged in and saw recent activity, small transfers, $50 here, $120 there, but consistent. Over the last month, there had been almost $2,000 moved through the account. I checked where the money was coming from. Digital art commissions. It made no sense. Olivia wasn't an artist. Not like that. I clicked through one of the receipts and found something that didn't sit right. A file description labeled Custom Preview, not safe for work. My stomach dropped. I stayed up all night digging. She had created a fake name, a whole online persona, and she was selling digital content. I won't go into details, but it was the kind of thing number 16-year-olds should be involved in, stuff masked as art, but clearly aimed at the wrong crowd. She wasn't in the images herself, thank God, but it was graphic content. Explicit. Stylized to seem like it was made by someone older. She was doing this to make fast money. Probably to feel independent. Or maybe to escape everything. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I waited until she got home from school, then I sat her down. No yelling. No accusations. I just asked her, "What are you doing online?" Her face went pale. She looked like she couldn't breathe. "I needed money," she whispered. "For what?" She hesitated. "I owed someone." That's when the real story came out. Turns out, months back, around the time she started her little vintage resale business, she borrowed money from a guy online. Someone posing as an investor in teen-run small businesses. She thought he was legit. He helped her set up her storefront, gave her money to buy inventory, even helped market the account. But the help came with strings. He asked for favors in return, nothing physical, but he pressured her into creating the explicit artwork. Promised it'd stay private, told her it was just a placeholder until she paid him back. And she believed him. When she tried to stop, he threatened to expose her account to her school. Said he had her real name, her photos, even screenshots of their chats. He said if she told anyone, he'd send everything to the school counselor and her friends. I stared at her. My daughter. My stubborn, proud, fierce Olivia. She looked so small, so cornered. I contacted the police. They took it seriously. Cybercrimes like this are harder to track, but they opened a case. We handed over everything, screenshots, account info, the chat logs. I didn't care how long it took. I wanted that man found. And Olivia? She was shaken, but something in her shifted again. This wasn't about spending money anymore. This was about control. About shame. About learning how quickly you can lose your sense of safety when you think you know more than you do. She started journaling in therapy. She let me read some entries. They were raw. Honest. Scared. One of them said, "I don't know who I am without money or attention." Another said, "I thought being grown meant doing whatever I wanted. But maybe it's just taking care of yourself." She's not magically better. She still wakes up in the middle of the night sometimes and checks if her phone's off. She still flinches when she gets an unknown DM. But she's showing up for therapy. She's doing the work. And I'm doing it with her. The school doesn't know. I pulled her out temporarily under a medical leave, and she's doing online classes now. That part? That's going okay. She doesn't love it, but at least she's not spiraling. Her therapist thinks it's best to give her space from her peers until the police make some progress. And they did. Last week, we got a call. They traced the guy's IP. He was local. Not some faraway creep hiding behind a screen. He worked at a print shop downtown. He was 34. He'd done this before. That's where things are now. I'm angry. I'm exhausted. But I'm not giving up. Not on Olivia. Not on this case. I can't afford to. Because this wasn't just about a spoiled kid with a spending problem anymore. This was about what happens when a child learns the world will eat her alive if she acts like a grown-up before she's ready. We're still in the middle of it. It all came to a head faster than I expected. The man who had manipulated Olivia, his name was Daniel Mays. The police arrested him quietly, and we were told he confessed during interrogation. Apparently, there were 3 other girls, 2 younger than Olivia, who had fallen into the same trap. Same setup. Same business investor routine. When I heard that, I thought I'd vomit. My daughter was one of many. It made me sick. And it made me furious. Olivia sat in our living room while I talked to the officer on speakerphone. I kept watching her, waiting for a reaction, but she just stared at the floor. When the officer confirmed Daniel had confessed and that they had enough to prosecute, she finally spoke. "I want to tell the school." "What?" I asked, confused. "Why?" "They need to know. People need to know this can happen. It's not just creeps in dark basements. It's guys with jobs. With suits." I couldn't argue with her. But I was terrified. High school isn't kind to girls with stories like this. So I told her we'd talk to her therapist first. A week later, we did. Her therapist supported the idea, but only if Olivia felt safe doing it. And she did. God help me, she was braver than I ever was at 16. The school called a special assembly. They invited parents. I sat in the third row with my heart in my throat while Olivia stepped up to the microphone in front of 300 people. She didn't give specifics. She didn't name names. But she told them she was manipulated online by someone she thought was helping her. She said she hid it because she was ashamed and thought it was her fault. She said the hardest part wasn't what happened. It was hiding it from the people who loved her. And then she looked at me. I thought my mom would hate me if she knew, she said, voice shaking. But she didn't. She fought for me. Even when I made it almost impossible. I didn't cry often, but I did then. When she stepped down, there was silence. Just silence. Then one teacher stood and clapped. Then a few more. Then the room erupted. But not everyone clapped. One of the PTA moms, Pam, who I'd always disliked for how perfect she pretended her life was, approached me in the hallway afterward. I'm sorry, she said, fake sympathy dripping from her voice. But don't you think that was a little inappropriate for a school event? I stared at her, dead in the eye. You think kids aren't dealing with this already? I asked. You think your daughter isn't online? That she's safe just because you don't know what she's doing? Pam didn't answer. Just turned and walked away, muttering something under her breath. That night, Olivia and I had our first real, raw talk. No rules. No anger. Just truth. She told me she felt like a failure. Like she'd ruined her future. I told her she hadn't ruined anything. You made mistakes. Big ones. But you're facing them. That's more than most adults can say. We sat in silence for a while. Then she asked me something I didn't expect. Did you ever hate me? I looked her in the eye. Never. Not for 1 second. I hated what was happening. I hated that you were hurting. But I never stopped loving you. That broke her. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing. I held her like I did when she was 5. In the weeks that followed, things shifted. She went back to school part-time. Her story reached other parents, some thanked us. A few didn't speak to me anymore, and I was fine with that. She closed all her social media accounts. Changed her number. Got a part-time job at a local cafe. Said she wanted to earn real money, honest money. We still fought sometimes. Parenting isn't a movie. But there was trust again. A fragile, rebuilt thing, but it was there. One night, a few months later, I found her asleep at the dining table, her textbooks open. She'd been studying for finals. I brushed the hair from her face and just watched her for a moment. This girl, who had once screamed she hated me, had been to hell and back, and she was still here. And so was I. I don't know if we'll ever fully be the same. But maybe that's okay. Maybe the point wasn't to go back to how things were. Maybe it was to survive it. Together. I learned that love isn't always soft. Sometimes it's brutal. Loud. Full of slammed doors and hard truths. But if it's real, it stays. It doesn't run when things get ugly. That night, I went to bed and stared at the ceiling, thinking about everything. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel angry. Just tired. And finally, a little hopeful.